Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum. Peace be unto you. Welcome back to the book of Ruth, chapter 4. There are 22 verses, beginning in verse 1. It says here, the matter regards the portion of the field which was our brother Elimelech's. Okay, it's actually verse 3. So verse 3, this is Boaz speaking to his relative who is the nearest of kin, nearer than he is. He's talking to him about the matter regarding the portion of the field which was our brother Elimelech's, which was given to Naomi. Naomi is selling a parcel of land which was our brother Elimelech's. So she's not exactly selling it in this context. She is the owner of the field. Okay, verse 4, I will inform you versus advertise you. Now, that can be taken in the wrong way if you're not understanding that properly, but he's informing him. And there's an omission of I am, talking about the nearest of kin responding to Boaz saying, I am the kinsman, or I am here. But perhaps he's saying, I am the kinsman, so I will redeem it. There's a big difference in verse 5, and it is this. Boaz is telling him, you must buy her, referring to Ruth, versus you must buy it, referring to the land, buy it of Ruth. But if you remove the it reads like this, you must buy also of Ruth. So you're buying of her, or are you buying her? The Septuagint, there's no confusion. You are buying her. You must also buy her. It says there, just plain and simple, buy her. That's what you have to do if you want the land. Okay, and the next verse is verse 6. It says here, Mar. So he's telling him, the kinsman is telling Boaz, I shall not be able to redeem it because he will mar his own inheritance. What does mar mean? In the Hebrew, it means to spoil. So he's going to spoil or corrupt or destroy his own inheritance. So that's his concern. He doesn't want to do that. Verse 7, Boaz explaining to him, okay, I'm not sure if this is anyone speaking. This could just be the narration explaining the customs. So this is the ordinance for redeeming and for a bargain versus concerning changing, which is understood as exchanging. So this is how these are the practices, the customs in regards to bargaining, which I understand to mean dealing, trading, and yes, exchanging. So not changing like changing clothes, but exchanging, making an exchange. And it says here to confirm every word versus to confirm all things. There's an omission of regarding this loosing of the shoe. They give the shoe to his neighbor that redeemed his right. So essentially Boaz would be given the shoe of the nearest of kin, the nearer of kin than himself, because he redeemed his right to redeem Ruth. So that was omitted, that redeemed his right. And then verse 8, there's an omission of my right. So buy my right for yourself. So he's not simply buying those things, he's buying his right to redeem it. And that's what the shoe symbolizes. And so he took off his shoe and gave it to him. So that was omitted, that he gave him. He didn't just take off his shoe, he gave Boaz his shoe. That's his property now. Verse 10 actually contradicts verse 5 in the Masoretic text, that is. So let's read that. I've purchased Ruth to be my wife. So let's look at verse 5 just to see how does it contradict? Because you must buy it? No, you don't buy it. You don't buy the land. You buy Ruth. And it says here, yes, he is in fact purchased Ruth to be his wife. I have bought for myself for a wife Ruth. So that's the first thing he mentioned as to what he purchased. And then it says here, from the tribe, so the name of the dead shall not be destroyed, etc. From the tribe of his people, not from the gate of his place. It's from the tribe of his people. It's not that his name's on the gate and then you remove the name. No, just simply the tribe of his people will not be destroyed. The name will continue to continue. The name will continue to continue. It will be propagated. Okay. Verse 11, wrought mightily versus do you worthily. So the people are saying this statement to Boaz in regards to Rachel and Leah. They worked mightily in Ephrath. So that's what Rachel and Leah did versus and do you worthily. So they did worthily in Ephrath versus mightily. So mightily is a little less subjective. Worthily seems to be more subjective. How do you know if something's worthy or not? And then it says, and there shall be a name to you versus be famous. Verse 14, a significant difference here. Talks about the woman said to Naomi. So who is the woman? I am leaning towards this is Ruth actually speaking to her mother-in-law, perhaps. But it does say women in the Masoretic. But does that make sense that all the women are saying the same thing? Probably not. Maybe Ruth was inspired by the Ruach HaKodesh to speak these words, that blessed is Adonai, or blessed is Yah, who has not suffered a redeemer to fail you this day. And this could be possible foreshadowing of the Messiah. Not only is Boaz a redeemer, but through his line and Ruth's line, the redeemer of all Israel would come from. And it says to fail you. So the redeemer, I should say, Adonai has not allowed a redeemer to fail you this day. So he is a rescuer. He provides. Versus, he has not left you without a kinsman. So he didn't leave you lacking. Okay, verse 15 says soul versus life, and then cherish versus nourish. So it's one thing to cherish your old age, to sort of be happy, to cherish it, to be joyous in your old age, but to nourish it? How are you feeding old age? That's a little mysterious, to be honest. And that's the word cool, to keep in, to maintain. So he's going to maintain your old age. Why would anyone want to maintain old age unless you're dying? But to cherish it means you're having happy golden years. The twilight years are going to be happy. For your daughter-in-law, okay, has loved you. So she seems to be, if it is indeed Ruth, she is speaking in the third person. For your daughter-in-law, which has loved you. And then she's kind of bigging up herself. Who's better to you than 7 sons has borne him? So you could make an argument. It makes more sense for the women to be speaking about Ruth because it makes her sound a little full of herself, to be frank. But maybe she's just being factual. She's saying, I love you as much as 7 sons. Maybe that's, her affection being expressed, that I love you as much as this, to this degree, better than 7 sons. And that's emotional. That can be really touching as well. And then in verse 16, I had a question about how is Naomi a nurse? Is she breastfeeding this baby? No. This means foster mother. So she's supporting Ruth and she's babysitting. She's helping her out with the baby. And here's another significant difference. We're going to close this video out. In verse 19, notice how this name, Ram, in the Masoretic, in the Septuagint, it says Syria, like the country Syria and the Syrian people. So perhaps, now this is a little bit of a stretch, but I'm just going to say because the name Syria is there, maybe there's a relationship here that the Syrian people are related to Pharez, Hezron. They came from Hezron, and then they begot Aminadab, and then Nahshon, Salmon, Boaz, and Obed. So perhaps Boaz could look like a Syrian person. I don't know. And then Jesse or Yisai, I believe, in David. So that's an interesting observation. That's a good question. Is Syria related, or are they not related? So that would have to be investigated on your own. I don't know if I should do that for this video. Maybe I'll just do a quick look up just before I stop the video. Okay, so I did a little bit of reading on Syria and Aram. So Syria and the Arameans, there's a link, and it seems that, just to boil it down, that the Syrians who accepted Christianity the Arameans who accepted Christianity were referred to by the Greeks as Syrians. So that was before Islam. So it's interesting, yes, there seems to be a link between the Syrian people who are the Arameans who were Christian and the people of Israel. So there seems to be like they're a branch from Hezron, from Aminadab, and Nahshon, Salmon, Obed, Jesse, and so on. So it's an interesting. Let me look at the family tree just to clarify. So first of all, we have Arameans who live in the nation of Israel. They are a Christian minority who live in Israel. They claim to descend from the Arameans, an ancient Semitic people, Semitic-speaking people in the Middle East in the first millennium BC. Another detail, an interesting detail about the Syrians or the Arameans, their language was, yes, Aramaic. That's what Yeshua spoke. So it was very closely related to Hebrew, Syriac, and Phoenician. Our father in Aramaic is Aun Devishmea. So let's continue looking up here. Okay, so here's a little bit of a shocker because this genealogy does not go far back. It only goes from Hezron. Actually, it does go a little far back. Hezron came from Pharez. So let's retreat here. Not every Syrian comes from this bloodline, but there might be a substantial amount. There could be a significant portion of the Syrian population who call themselves Syrians that can trace their lineage from this family tree. So let's rewind here. Syria, and then before Syria, they came from Hezron, and then before their father is Pharez, and before Pharez, that would be Judah. Because if you see here earlier, it does mention Pharez, the house of Pharez, which Tamar bore to Judah. So in fact, if you or somebody you know claim to be Aramaean and Assyrian from this bloodline, they are in fact of Judah. So technically they're Jewish. Maybe not religiously, but bloodline-wise, DNA-wise, ethnically, yes, they're actually Jewish. They're Yehudim. So that's interesting. That might be a shocker to some people. That's actually a surprise to me, especially since this name, Syria, has been redacted, essentially. It's been not only redacted, it's been replaced by Ram. But if the Masoretic just revealed the truth that it's Syria, then yeah, the Syrians are, not all of them, but I mean, depending on the lineage, because yeah, Syria is made up of multiple peoples, but those who can prove it and trace their bloodline, doing a DNA test and so on, could look at their family history and prove whether they are actually of this bloodline. Okay, so that's all for this video. It's an interesting observation right at the end of the book of Ruth. So that's all for Ruth. The book of Ruth, it was a pleasure to do this, and I did this all in one day of all things. So this was a quick exploration and discovery. I certainly enjoyed it. I hope this was helpful to you in your study of the Tanakh. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. May be blessed. May Adonai bless you all. I wish you all shalom aleichem, assalamu alaikum, erini mazisu, pax vobiscum, peace be unto you, Maranatha, and stay tuned for our other videos. I think we'll take a break for now before we start 1 Samuel, aka first book of Kings. There's actually 4 books of Kings, not 2. And we'll see what we have moving forward. It might be a surprise, but stay tuned for more videos. Thank you very much once again, and Maranatha.